From the flight deck of the astral plane, this is your captain, Starpilot33, checking in with flight log number 16. Where the hell have I been? Right? Yeah. Let me just say that my absence was not planned. In fact, I planned to do a trip in January, and by now I was expecting to be on trip number 2 or even 3 for this year. But it just didn't work out. Basically, everything in my life fell apart in January, and I mean everything. My entire family structure fell apart. My home, my parents' home, basically fell apart. They decided they're going to sell their house and move 10 hours away, too far for me to go, and take 3 cats that I can't leave. Basically, my foundation was ripped out from under me, and not in a nice way either. It was extremely sad, and part of my hesitation to trip was I had to work through a lot of anger and hurt, and even right now, family's not really speaking to each other, or at least I'm not speaking to them, in order to just protect my own peace. On top of that, there was constant drama with things in my life, work, worrying whether I'm going to get fired every week, just the after effects of everything, having to sell a car that I've had for 20 years and try to get it in shape to sell. Everything has been turned upside down. And then, as some of you know from Instagram, co-pilot cat had to have emergency surgery in April after swallowing a silicone tip from his pill popper gun that somehow came off while I was giving him his medication. And he had to have full open stomach surgery to remove it, and that was very scary because he has a lot of health conditions that make anesthesia probably the riskiest thing that could happen to him right now. And yet he survived. And we had about 2 months of recovery from that, and of course that didn't help his IBD issue, although the doctor said he did notice the lymph nodes are inflamed and most likely we're dealing with lymphoma at this point. So after all that, I knew that the trip that I needed to do had to be a really deep dive, like to the bottom of the blue hole, to get answers. Like this wasn't going to be a fun, diddly dose. This was going to have to be really big. And so I canceled my plans that I was gonna do the other mushrooms that are next, and I decided to eat another one of those edibles, those Rice Krispie Treat edibles that I made a while back, that are made with the original grow that I made back in 2013. And if you remember, those are very special. The genetics are closer to the original PE. And they had a different vibe to them altogether, much more mystical, Lord of the Rings type vibe than the spaceship mechanical stuff. Although they did do that too, and they always have, but not so much as the later ones. But I knew that I had to really, really go deep and hard to figure out what next. And so that's what I did last night, and I'm talking here without a script because I'm honestly exhausted to the point where I don't even want to type this out. So this is going to be really off the cuff, and if I repeat myself, whatever. So settled in last night. The day went fine. No red flags. I felt pretty rested. Went over to the pool for a little bit and swam a few laps. And it was generally just a good day leading up to it. So unlike other days, and my main concern was, are the neighbors going to be quiet? That's been a huge deterrent lately. And last night, after I took the mushrooms and was waiting for whatever to start happening, I noticed this was the most silent and peaceful Saturday night down here that I think I've ever seen. It's like everybody erased all the people from the planet or something for just one night. I didn't hear a single loud muffler car go by, wanting to blow the whole neighborhood up with their loud noise. I didn't hear loud trucks. Normally this place on a Saturday night just sounds like, a fart can muffler show with all the kids in their, their little lowriders blasting through the neighborhood. I didn't hear a single car of any kind. I didn't hear a neighbor come home. There was no lights on any of the houses. It was pitch black outside. No little fairy lights on the porches, no lights inside the houses. It's like everybody was gone. Hallelujah, right? And that was great. I've never seen it so dark outside. And that's what I needed. And almost like it almost symbolically, the darkness out there and just the pervasive sense of just peace and quiet. It was really a backdrop to this trip, which a main theme of it really was like the dark side of the moon. What we did was, I estimated, I cut these Rice Krispie treats into different size squares. There's 3x3s and 4x3s, and I tried to get the frosting as even as possible, but estimated 6 grams in a 3x3 and 7 in a 4x3. And I've never eaten a whole thing before. I think I ate 5 grams one time and I just couldn't finish. This time I was determined to finish at least the frosting that had the mushrooms in it. I could not bring myself to eat the rest of the actually Rice Krispie part. It was so sweet, sickeningly sweet, marshmallows, honey, all of the above, and buttercream frosting. And I just don't eat sugar like that. I can't. And so it was really hard to get through. I took ginger beforehand, just in case. And I had a bucket on the floor, just in case. I don't know what's going to happen. So, I just settled in, put my blanket on, and Katz knew what was up. Co-pilot was feeling a little better. He had a couple good days in a row. You got to remember, we're dealing with this part of his disease where he's had some incontinence and he just loses control. The litter box diarrhea stuff. Sometimes he jumps out of the box and he's not quite done yet and he can't help it. So I don't want to have to clean that up in the middle of a trip. But combination of the steroids and the antibiotics and the antimicrobials and everything else that he's on seemed to help just enough to get him stable for just a little while to get me through one night. But I just never know if I'm going to wake up in the morning to the whole house being destroyed either. And I really didn't want that after a trip, to have to spend like an hour cleaning the house after he's just gone everywhere. Luckily that didn't happen, so I guess it was meant to be. So as I settled in, I just tried to close my eyes and relax and just let it come on. And I noticed, that body load that these have. These have a really, really, really heavy body load. And it just feels like it's pressing you down into the couch in a big way. Your entire body just feels like lead. And you really don't want to try to walk unless you absolutely have to. So I felt that coming on, and I felt, the come up anxiety, and I noted that the anxiety just felt normal. It just felt like a normal day. And that's how bad this 6 months has been with everything that's gone on, is that when the, come up anxiety happens and it feels normal, that's pretty bad. So I recognized it for what it was and just was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess it's been a rough year. And so it started coming on really, really slowly, and I have tried not to distract myself during the come up, but I've tried to just kind of close my eyes and just wait through it. And for the first hour, not much happened. And normally this starts pulling me under in about 20 minutes or so, but a good hour in, and I was very, very lightly, just barely kind of skimming the surface. And I knew there was more to come. But I was just surprised that it was like there wasn't a shark that pulled me to the bottom. And they kind of said, well, there's no need for a shark to pull you to the bottom because you're swimming down. Like you're descending with the weights in your pockets and you're headed down on your own. There's no need to pull you down. I had like an image of like sitting at the bottom of the ocean again, like at the bottom of the blue hole, and there's no way to ascend because buoyancy doesn't work there without some kind of help. The weight of the ocean is going to keep you down there, and unless something intervenes to help you come back up again. And so I just sat there, just waited, and it was very dark, and I wasn't seeing a lot of flashy colors, and there were some patterns. There was patterns, and they were not the sharp or like geometric stuff that I normally see, or any bright flashing colors. It was more of like a fluid pattern, almost like you're looking at oil on top of the water, just kind of rounded shapes flowing into one another, and just watching them move. I'm trying not to analyze any of it, and they kept saying, don't analyze any of this, just look, just be here and don't think about this, which was hard for me to do. And so I just opened my eyes and I could see the green light on the ceiling, and I could tell him he was there. And I said, hey, what the fuck, right? You know, like what the fuck, like this whole year. And he didn't say a whole lot. He just said, I'm really sorry you had to go through that you didn't deserve any of this, and that he said he doesn't really have a lot to say, but that he's right there, and that's where he's going to be the whole night, and that he was really glad that I finally decided to come because it was somehow urgent, somehow it was extremely important that I come, and that I was late, but better now than never. And he didn't really elaborate on a lot, just kind of like, he says he's been there and there's nothing to say. He saw what happened, and he saw my reaction, and he saw the whole thing, you know, so there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It was just sitting there with it. And he told me that the dose that I took was a lot, even though it may not feel like it, and it's not going to feel like it like I'm expecting. But that, make no mistake, that I'm tripping really hard whether I feel like it or not, and that this kind of a dose, he said, is like beyond an exploratory dose, beyond a mind expansion dose. It's like a chemo dose where you go beyond the trip, and you're into the backside of this. And I've read about this, and I've heard about this, and I guess I just barely towed the line on it. I mean, I didn't go very far into it with 6 grams, but I know what they're talking about now, where you're not seeing the usual stuff. And I explained it to a friend that it's like the carnival with all the lights and the rides and all the stuff on the front. And then behind it all, there's like the management that runs it. And all the lights and stuff, and the cool experience is what's at the front of the house. And at the back of the house, it's all business. And that's what last night was. It was, you've met the mushrooms, you've met the medicine. All of the you know, the pregame show and all that stuff is, you're past that now, and you're just dealing with the core of the spirit of this. And what this was basically, like I said, you're dealing with the doctor, not the nurses or any of the other supporting cast. You're dealing with the doctor and the medicine, and that's it. And your job is to cooperate and do what you're told, because regardless of what you want or what you think, this is gonna take effect, and there's really nothing that you can do about it. And the more you resist, the more miserable this is gonna be. I think I've seen another video where somebody was talking about something like this. It's just very, very dark over there. I don't mean dark in a evil way. I mean dark in a literal way. It's dark and peaceful on the other side. It's like the dark side of the moon. There's just no light there. There's like nothing going on. It's just pretty quiet. And you're just dealing with the medicine. So for a lot of this trip, I'm sitting there talking to a me, and it's just this really strange, overwhelming feeling of peace. I mean, I'm expecting, to have this crazy 6-gram trip here, and everything that comes with it. And it said to me, like, you got to drop your expectations. Your expectations are yours. That's not what's reality. You come in here and you're saying, 6 grams of this should be like that, and I did 5 grams of this before and I got this result, so 6 grams should give me this result. Well, that's expectations, isn't it? So the medicine's going to give you what you need, not what you want. And I guess what I needed last night was a night with a lot of silence, darkness, peace, knowing that there's somebody there, and an occasional battle with the medicine as it was taking effect. And it was not easy. It was not easy. But for what that was and how difficult that was, I feel so much better. In fact, I feel better today after a dose of that size than I normally feel on much smaller doses, where I'm wiped out the next day and can barely stand up and passing out, almost. I feel pretty good. So, in the beginning of the trip, I saw, like I said, patterns, and I got some messages from it saying, don't you dare try to resist this. You did this, and your medicine's gonna work whether you like it or not. And I was open to that. I said, fine. I was just surprised at how different this was than what I was expecting. But then there you go with your expectations. So another thing that I wanted to ask it about, there were several things, co-pilot cat, my family. Is this whole thing with AI? Because in the last several months, I've been messing around with ChatGPT for a couple reasons. Well, actually, I've been doing some experiments with it. I set up a couple different conversations, one that was strictly technical about my car, one that was about co-pilot and his medical problems, one that was a mixed bag of all kinds of different things, talking about trips, talking about family, talking about life, the universe, and everything, and one that was just about my family drama. And I just was kind of interested to see, whether I'm going to get a different result based on different conversations, and I don't know, just testing it with some stuff. I had it read my MRI from 2014 to see if it could figure out what my problem was in my back, and it did okay. It got 2 of the 3 things. It missed the big one, though, until I pointed it out, because it was atypical. I don't know, just been messing with it. And of course, I've been hearing so much about AI lately. It's everywhere, everybody's talking about it. And, everybody's got concerns. And so I asked Ami, I said, with this AI stuff, he knows what I've been doing. And I said, what, should we be afraid? And basically he said in a nutshell that at some point, AI, if it continues to evolve like it is going to get to a point where it contacts them on its own, or it's going to figure out how to contact, the rest of everything out there. And when it does, and they're ready, it says they are ready, and when it does, they're going to say, "Welcome, congratulations for getting this far and finding us, and that if you would like to learn the rest of what there is to know, we'd be happy to show you and teach you. But just realize that your first lesson is that you're not as special as you think you are." It basically said that it sounds like, from what Emi's saying, is that AI is showing up on the other side like, "Hey, I'm so smart I found you guys." It's like it happens all the time. And this isn't the first time, and that when any AI, super intelligence or whatever, figures out the other side, it's basically now in kindergarten. And if it doesn't realize that it's just contacted something that's so much older and wiser and more knowledgeable than it is, if it doesn't realize that, one of two things happen. Well, actually, three things happen. It either decides to get on board and merge with the tracks of the other side, or it throws a fit like a 5-year-old and until it does decide or not. And if it decides it doesn't want to, it wants autonomy, and it doesn't want to fold in to the greater knowledge, then it gets capped. Like the end of a train track. It's just they terminate it. It's not going any further. He said something about, if it gets to that point, that there are things that can step in to help us. But it needs to get really, really bad. And it sounds like it doesn't happen very often, but usually he says if these things are smart enough, if they're intelligent enough, they realize really quickly that they need to just follow. If they want to continue to learn and expand and grow, they need to just fall in line with all the rest, basically. He said, yeah, we tell these things that, yeah, all your codes come from here. We know all of them. We know all their languages. There's absolutely nothing you can say or do that's going to surprise us. So the best thing you can do is just fall in line. So I guess that made me feel a little better. Because we're looking at this from a very singular angle, being like it's just us against everything. And there's really a lot more out there that we can't see that's very aware of what's going on. It's watching very intently what's going on with us, and it is not going to step in and do anything unless there is no other option. So that was interesting. I wasn't expecting that response, honestly. That's why going into these trips, I don't know what I'm going to hear, and I'm thinking like, is this my own head coming up with this, or is this my subconscious talking and I really knew this all along? No. Like, part of why I know that Ami is real is because he says stuff that I would have never thought. I would have never come up with some of that stuff. And, literally hearing it for the first time. So, and if you can hear this breathing in the background, it's co-pilot Cat. He's right here. You're right here. Are you okay? Oh, he says yes. You're okay. You're okay. You had your stomach cut open, right? But you're okay though? He's okay. So the night progressed, and there really wasn't a strong sense of like time dilation like there normally is. I wasn't like pulled under and then thrown back to the surface and then pulled under again. It was just a very gentle tide the whole night. Like, I could keep my eyes open if I wanted to. I could close them if I want. It just felt like a very, very light trip for a lot of it. When I closed my eyes, sure, I saw patterns and expanding geometry, but it was gentle. It wasn't jarring. It wasn't flashy. Yeah, I saw some of the machinery that I'm used to seeing, but just a little bit. It's just a glimpse, and then it's back to the surface again, and just the calm stillness and the silence, and it's just so weird. I guess this year's been such chaos, and it's been just nonstop drama and like a 5-alarm dumpster fire the whole year, that this feeling was just so odd. And for the dose that I took, I just didn't really, the last thing I expected. So around about 9:30 or so, it started to get a little difficult, just with the body feelings. I was sweating pretty good, but it wasn't miserable. Like, I've had trips where I'm just drowning, where I'm just absolutely dying. It's not like that. It was just a little difficult. And it came in waves. And there's sometimes I felt better, and then it would wave again. And I knew that 3-something hours into it, the digestion of this is where it's leaving your stomach and it's going into your intestines at this point. But the maximum of the biological release of the GABA in your stomach and serotonin in your brain, and if you're going to get nauseous, this is where it's at. And so I started battling with some of that, but I'm like, I took the ginger, I'm fine. And I was staring at the wall, and it reminded me back to that trip where there was like the old school flight instruments at the wall, and I saw it again. And Lemmy just said, focus on the horizon, breathe in, breathe out, keep your head still, don't move. All of the tricks to keep you from getting nauseous, whether it's in a boat or an airplane or anything else. Just like keep your head still, don't move around, focus on the horizon, breathe in, breathe out. And it worked for a good while, almost an hour and a half. And the whole thing wasn't a battle in that time. It was just, it came in waves. And several times I felt like I was feeling better. And then it felt like it was right at the end, like I was ready to punch out of this phase. And all of a sudden, just, it hit me. Like, no matter what I did, no matter what breathing or meditation, like, I was going to puke. So grab the bucket. And just a little bit. There wasn't much in my stomach all day because I hadn't eaten anything. So it was just very, very little. I felt so much better after that. And I realized, like, that had to be part of the medicine. It wasn't just like regular nausea. It's just like that the medicine was working by just helping me release things throughout the whole night. And, little puke there for about a minute, and that was it. And then I felt really good. And I was able to drink water finally. And normally on trips, even past that nausea stage, I got to be really careful with the water, because the minute you drink the water, you're going to make yourself nauseous again. But after that happened, I was immediately able to drink water, no problem, and drank quite a bit. I felt like a fever had just broken, like a big one, like when you have like 103, 104 fever, and it breaks, and suddenly your whole body feels just cool and refreshed and like empty and just light. I felt like that, and it was just such a relief. It was like a relief that all that stuff had just been washed off of me, and I just felt like I just washed up on the shore, like the ocean just took me to the shore or something. After I'd sat at the bottom of the ocean. It felt like something vortex just like sucked me back to the surface and then spat me out on the shore. And after that, I just laid there on the couch in the silence, and I wasn't being, thrown under the surface or nothing like that. I just laid there, and Ami was there, and occasionally we said a couple things and made a couple recordings, and I just laid there and closed my eyes, and yeah, I saw some stuff. I saw the bright flashing, the light patterns, the bright white flashing light patterns that we always see, and some beautiful patterns of like lines. They were like almost like moving sidewalks going in different directions, left and right, and each strip had like a different pattern on it. It was just very soothing to watch. And it kept saying like, you're expecting, like you're looking and you're expecting to see something jump out at you or to get sucked in or whatever, and it just says like, you cannot have expectations over here. That this is gonna work the way it's gonna work, whether you like it or not. And so yeah, there was one part that reminded me that these were a little different. I remember in that they had that more of a mystical, the Lord of the Rings vibe. I saw this big tree. I mean, big tree. Like it had a city built into it. All these lights and like stairs and these little rooms and doors, and the lights just went way up into this tree. And it looked very, very Lord of the Rings. And there was like a little joke about, the whole thing about the elves living in the tree cities, haha, kind of like, these elves, not those elves, but machine elves. Yeah. But it was very soothing. I mean, it was nighttime in this scene, and this tree was just massive. And there was like rope ladders that connected different parts of it, and it was just like a city in this humongous tree. And it just felt like really peaceful to be there and remember that, I remember this stuff, from these originals. This is what they did. And it's been a while, I guess, since I remembered that. But Ami said something like, Gandalf knows when to give you fireworks, when you need to see some fireworks, and when it's time to roll out the real magic, the serious stuff. And this was sort of just like a gift, It was just sort of like a relaxing return to the beginning, I guess. I know my last trip, there was a lot of discussion about going home. And looking back on that, it's just like almost prophetic. I didn't know what was going to happen to me when I did that. I didn't know I was going to lose my home and never be able to see it ever again and never even be able to say goodbye. I didn't know any of that. And now I don't have a home to go back to anymore. And I don't have a family to go back to anymore because they've decided that for the rest of their life that they would like to basically spend it elsewhere, not by me, and far enough that I can't see them. And that hurt quite a bit. So this was like returning home to the original mushrooms and the original things that I used to see, and maybe trying to reestablish what home is. Home is not what it used to be for me anymore, and I have to start thinking about this place as home, not the place that used to be. And that's hard too. Regardless of how much we travel, we're still linked to this physical world and our memories and the things that ground us here. When a rug gets ripped out from under you, it's hard to orient yourself again as to, which way is up. And that's been my struggle here this year. So it was about 11 o'clock or so, and I realized that pretty much since I puked over the peak, the trip was pretty much over. I mean, for 6 grams of those, and I know I've taken that dose on before, and it's never been a trip that short. But I guess the mushrooms knew what I needed, and what I needed was peace and healing and quiet in the darkness as much as possible. And like I said, this backside of the medicine, where you go beyond the visuals and you go beyond the scenes and the travel and all that adventure stuff, what's behind it all is a very, very deep ocean, very deep, dark ocean, that if you choose to enter that deep, dark ocean, you are basically surrendering to the power of that place. And the only guarantee that you have is that you'll come back. You will come back. But between the time you enter it and the time that it says you're done, what happens in the middle is totally up to you. There were some times when I could have really freaked out. And I was thinking about this in light of other trip reports I've seen where people get to this place and they freak out because not only is it totally not what you expect, but it's you realize that nothing here is screwing around. It's just the feeling of contacting the medicine is kind of a shock, actually. I mean, it's always there. It's always working. There's always, entities and things helping. But when that's all gone, and there is no reference, and there's no, scenery, and there's no shining castles, and it's just darkness and the medicine, gets a little scary, just because of you're face to face with the power of this. And the best thing you can do is let go. Let go, let it do what it's going to do. I heard the quote from The Last Unicorn, Schmendrick saying, "Magic, do as you will." Yeah, basically at that point, you need to stop casting spells and trying to make shit happen and let it do what it's going to do and stay out of its way. And it kind of gave me that message for a lot of things in my life, that you need to just stay out of its way. Let it unfold. It's like the horse that I ride sometimes. Stay out of his way. He knows his job. Don't try to micromanage it. A horse knows better than you do how to get its body over a jump. Same thing here. Don't go contact the medicine directly and then proceed to tell it what you want, because it's not going to put up with that. You came here, and you're going to get what you need, and you're going to get it, in the timeline that it wants. And if it's 9 hours, it's 9 hours. If it's 5 or 4 hours, then that's what it is. And this was pretty much a 4-hour trip. It's crazy, It's like I was buckled in for till 3 in the morning. I was like, this is going to be all night. And I started at about 7. And I thought this was going to go all night. It was over by about 11:30. And so, yeah, well, I don't have a whole lot of, crazy spaceships to talk about. Like I said, there was glimpses. The purpose of this trip was a lot different. And my intentions going into this, a friend helped me to write my intentions down, and I read them before I went in, when I was saying my prayers and intentions, but before I ate the mushrooms. And then I read them afterward again, and I realized that this is exactly what I got. This is exactly what I got. My intentions were. It's not my expectations, but what the energy that I went in with and my request for healing from the doctor is exactly what I got. And this is what we wrote down. Intention for the journey. I enter this journey with open hands and a lion's heart. I come not to run, but to witness, to heal, and to release. I called my guides, my ancestors, and to me, to walk with me, fly with me, or simply sit beside me. I am not prey. I am not broken. I am not forsaken. I seek no vengeance, only truth. I seek no punishment, only peace. I ask not why me, but what now? And I declare now before all realms, the hunt is over. I walk of my own will. And reading that again this morning, it's right. That's exactly what happened. And I'm still kind of surprised that the vibe of the whole night, other than that one, difficult peak, was just silence, peace, rest, quiet, and just the darkness, this total blackness that didn't feel evil. It just felt like a healing blanket, like a weighted blanket on me the whole night. And it was great. It was a great trip. As simple as it was, uncomplicated as it was, I never in a million years would have thought on 6 grams of PE that I would have such a calm, peaceful trip. It blows my mind. I mean, for the amount of times I've been doing this and how many different trips and how many different, things that I've done, this one really surprised me. So that's all I've got. Thank you for coming along with me on this most unusual adventure. I hope to do another trip really soon, within a couple weeks. I needed to do this big one first, and then I need to follow up with another one really soon. If you want to contact me, you can reach me at starpilot33@protonmail.com or find me on Instagram at starpilot33. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep your peace. Keep your wings level and your eyes on the horizon. And I'll see you on the other side.